Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to the channel for this installment of Open Mic, the show where the mic is open, the floor is yours. What do you guys want to talk about? That is what we are here to discuss today. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. Good to have you guys here. It's this first open mic we've had in a while, and it's good to be back. I'm happy about this. My wife, Ann, is actually out. Normally, Friday evenings spend with the wife, but Ann went down to the Dodgers World Series parade and then to the big presentation at the stadium. So she's out. So I had a little time for open mic here today. So I'm so glad you guys are joining me. Here's how open mic's going to go. I got to talk about something a little bit quick, and then really the biggest chunk of the show is going to be taking your questions. If you guys have a question for me, go ahead and use the super chat feature in the live chat. Unfortunately, you can only send in questions for open mic. So if you're watching this a little bit later, you can only send in questions for open mic if you're watching live and you use the super chat feature. So you can do that. But if you do want to send in a question for us to address and answer on the John Campea show, our daily show in the mornings. If you have a question for that and you want to send a question for that, you still can using our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip, and we'll just get around to answering those on the next episode of the John Campea show. But if you're here for open mic and you want a question answered on open mic, use the super chat feature and we'll get around to those in just a second. Good to see all you guys here. Good to have you. So listen, before we get to your questions, I kind of wanted to touch on this because, we've been talking a lot lately about Penguin, right? Because Penguin has just been utterly fantastic. Like I expected it to be good. I think most of us expected it to be good because, damn it, Colin Farrell in the Batman as Penguin was lights out. So good. And this world, this iteration of Gotham that Matt Reeves has created, I think is the best version of Gotham we've ever seen. I'm not saying the Batman was better than the Dark Knight. I'm just saying the iteration of Gotham feels more like the Gotham I would read on the pages of Batman comics, probably more than any other iteration of Gotham I've ever seen. It's been great. So we knew Penguin would probably be good, but I just cannot believe how good it is. Like, it's going to be nominated for Best Drama Series at the Emmys. Like, I guarantee you it will be. And I just didn't expect, whether it'll win or not, I don't know. But I mean, it'll get nominated. And I'm surprised about that. And right now we've got a brand new head of, DC with James Gunn and Peter Safran. We're getting ready to launch their new cinematic universe with Superman coming up in the summer of 2025. Excited about that. And, somebody wrote in a question to me that is a pretty standard question, but one that right now feels unique. We have for years and years and years and years always had questions in our fan circles about, can DC overtake Marvel, right? We've talked about that 1,000 times. So somebody again wrote that into me yesterday and asked me, with how excited many of us are for James Gunn's Superman and his whole universe that he's setting with DC, fresh start for DC, and with how ridiculously good the Batman was, and how insanely good Penguin is right now. Could we see, is it more realistic today than in days past to ask the question, could we see DC at some point maybe overtake Marvel? And I think the answer to that question is yes. Now, I want to note that I'm not saying DC will overtake Marvel. We haven't seen any of the movies of the new DCU yet. But I want to suggest that it is poised to take over Marvel. The opportunity is there to overtake Marvel. Not put Marvel out of business or anything like that, but there is an opportunity right now, maybe more than ever before, for it to do so. And I want to talk about a couple reasons about why that is. Number one, the first reason I want to suggest that it's poised to kind of surpass Marvel is the fact that they have the advantage right now of a brand new page one fresh start. That comes with a lot of advantages. One of the big advantages that I want to point out here first is that with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's getting a little bit convoluted. We are now starting to get projects over the past couple of years that you actually will feel lost if you didn't watch previous projects, right? Like one of the big strengths of Marvel Cinematic Universe for the first like 3 phases was always there was nothing you had to watch in order to watch the new MCU thing. Certainly you'd be advantaged if you watched some of the previous stuff, but if you just came right in on the first Ant-Man movie and that was your first Marvel film, you were good. I would even say if you came right in on Civil War, would you appreciate more of the nuance if you'd watched previous stuff? Yeah, but would you feel lost watching Civil War if you had not watched any of the other stuff? Nope. You'd be able to jump right in. And right now that's where DC is. Obviously with a fresh start, they have this opportunity where everything they put out for the next couple of years is a total valid entry point for new fans. And that's just something that Marvel really isn't anymore. They've got too much interconnected and interweaving background now. Like even Agatha, which I really like Agatha. I thought it was really good. But if you didn't watch WandaVision, good luck. Like good luck. You just completely be lost right from the get-go about what's going on. Even WandaVision. If you didn't watch, things previous to that, good luck. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. If you didn't watch WandaVision, you'd be going, what the heck? What's going on? I thought Wanda was a hero. What's going on? Right? DC right now is in a really neat place where they are starting from scratch. And so everything they do right now is a possible entry point for new fans. So that's thing number one. The second reason I think they're kind of poised to potentially overtake Marvel is they right now have the advantage of multiple realities. Notice I didn't say multiverse. Multiverse is stupid. Multiple realities that are not interconnecting. Because DC and Warner Brothers has done films like Joker. We won't talk about Joker 2, but Joker, and more importantly and more relevant right now, Matt Reeves' The Batman. They have the ability that we can explore this kind of Batman and then have a different kind of Batman in the DCU. DC is not afraid because the comic books themselves have never been afraid. The comic books, for as long as I've been alive, have had really multiple versions of stories that aren't necessarily interconnected and have total freedom from each other. They've been doing that for decades. I don't know why the movies have been afraid to do that. And again, I'm not talking about interconnected reality. Let's have Robert Pattinson's Batman jump into David Cornsweat's Superman. No. That's multiverse. That's stupid. But I'm talking about they're not afraid to say, hey, we've got a creative idea for a great story for this great comic book character. Oh, sorry, you can't do that story because in the cinematic universe, we already have these other things that would contradict your story. Well, then don't say it's in the cinematic universe. Make it its own standalone thing. Remember when superhero movies used to be all standalone? Remember that? And they did just fine. Now, I'm not saying I prefer standalone over shared cinematic universe. I love shared cinematic universe, but it doesn't have to be an either or. And right now with the Batman and the Penguin, along with James Gunn's brand new DCU, they're starting off from a position where they are open and free to tell great stories with great characters and not worry if it contradicts with something that's going on in the cinematic universe. Yes, your cinematic universe has to stay consistent. Absolutely. But I think if they have a wild idea for a great Wonder Woman movie, like a really edgy, awesome Wonder Woman movie, I don't want them to go, too bad we can't do it because in our DCU, we've already got a Wonder Woman and she's not that kind of a Wonder Woman and her background in the DCU is already different from the story you want to tell, so can't tell that great story. Sorry. No, they're in a place right now that's like, we're free to do that. We can have a Wonder Woman in the DCU and hopefully it's great. But then if we have this wild, amazing idea for a Wonder Woman movie, but it's completely different than the Wonder Woman we've got in the DCU, okay, we can still do that story. Marvel can't do that because Marvel doesn't have the testicular fortitude to tell stories outside of their cinematic universe. And I say that as a big fan. Look at my hat. I'm a huge fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I say that as a big fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So reason number one, DC is poised to potentially be in a place where they could overtake Marvel is that they've got a fresh start. Number two, they're already establishing themselves where they can tell what, if they have a great idea for a story, but it's got to be an Elseworlds one, no problem. They're already doing it, and that gives them a great advantage. Number three, they're off to a strong start. They're off to a strong start. Now, granted, Penguin isn't made under the banner of the new DCU, granted, but most of us know we're in a new era for DC. You know, with the turnover happening and them sweeping away the old DCEU and ushering in a new cinematic universe and a new era for DC as a whole, man, I'll tell you what, coming out of the gate with Penguin is pretty good. That wasn't what it was intended for. I acknowledge that. But the fact that that's what you're kind of coming out with right now in this new era of DC, that is both DC and DCU, it's a pretty strong start because Penguin is pretty fucking awesome. Penguin is amazing. So that's incredible. Now, somebody just brought up, Sir Malcolm said, Joker 2, though. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But here's the good news about Joker 2. It's already gone. The good news about Joker 2 is that it's already gone, right? Nobody's talking about Joker 2 anymore. It came and it went like a fart in the wind. And now it's like meandering somewhere on streaming, but it came and went really fast. But with Penguin, we're getting new episodes every week. We've been talking about it for months now, and we're still going to be talking about it for a few more weeks because we still got 2 episodes to go. So that's the advantage that they have there. And then hopefully, continuing on the theme of a strong start, James Gunn's Superman. You may say, Creature Commandos. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really care that much about Creature Commandos. I'll check it out and I'll give it a shot. Absolutely, I will. But I would be lying to you if I told you I was super into the idea of Creature Commandos. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I think Superman is going to be awesome because the last everything James Gunn has done, I've loved. Like, what's the last 3 things James Gunn has done? Like, it's been Peacemaker, Guardians 3, and the Suicide Squad movie. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All awesome. Fabulously awesome. And I can't wait for Peacemaker Season 2. So, and I think Superman's going to be awesome. I don't know that it will. Maybe it'll be crap, but I suspect it'll be awesome because it's James Gunn. So we got fresh start, multiple realities, a strong start. Number 4, fourth reason. And this goes along with the fact that they're starting over. They get to dump all the baggage. DCEU became nothing but a large train filled with cabooses hauling baggage. Baggage of everybody hated this and everybody hated that and this thing failed and this one bombed and this one sucked. And it just became a huge thing of and the baggage started catching up with it. People stopped going to the DCEU movies, even the ones that were good. I don't care what anybody else says. Blue Beetle was a fun, entertaining little movie. I liked it. I thought it was good, but nobody went to go see it. I liked Black Adam. I mean, we always make fun of Black Adam because like $400 million we now call one Black Adam. That movie didn't even make one Black Adam. That movie barely made one Black Adam. Ooh, that movie made 1.5 Black Adams. I know we tease about it, but I really liked Black Adam. I mean, I didn't think it was great, but I enjoyed it. I liked Black Adam. And you had the biggest movie star in the world at the time in it, and that movie barely was able to make $400 million. And then The Flash just tanked, and I don't care what anybody says. I thought Flash was a really good movie. Flash, you know what? Screw that. Flash was a really good movie. Did it have its problems? Yes. But it was a very good movie. But nobody wanted to go see it. Even with Michael Keaton in it. Michael Keaton back, playing Batman. Still nobody went to go see it. And then you had all the off-camera baggage. You had all the Snyder Bros baggage. You had all the Ezra Miller baggage. You had all the this baggage and that baggage and all that kind of stuff. Well, guess what? That's all gone. It's a fresh start now. Now, they're still going to have to deal with the aftermath of some of the baggage at first, but they can at least say this isn't connected to that. This is totally different. This is totally new. I mean, even Marvel right now is having to carry around and drag around some of its baggage, right? Frickin' Secret Invasion, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Like Marvel has some baggage that it's got to drag around, and it's going to have to continue to drag it around as long as the MCU is going. Fair enough. But DC's in a very unique place right now where they get to kind of ditch all the baggage and start fresh. So that's a pretty good advantage for them. So starting fresh, multiple realities, strong start, disposing of baggage. Here's a fifth reason why I think the new DCU is poised to maybe potentially be in a spot where they could overtake Marvel. Master Yoda would teach us that failure is the greatest teacher. Failure is the greatest teacher. Wise words, Master Yoda. And DCU is getting to launch out of a complete failure of a DCEU. Now, that's not to say there weren't good things that there weren't some good things in the DCEU. I personally liked most of the films in the DCEU. But they also had a lot of mistakes and a lot of stumbles and a lot of failures. And James Gunn and company now have the advantage of being a totally fresh start, ditch all the baggage, but all of it is still there to learn from. Where did things go wrong? How did certain mistakes get made? Which things did they do right? Which things were working, and how can we build on those, and how can we replicate those, and how can we avoid the pitfalls of what we had before? So there's actually an advantage to having that long super train of failure behind. And there are lessons to be learned there. And if they can learn those lessons, I think they'll be in a pretty good spot. Now, in talking about the possibility of DC being in a place now where it's conceivable that they at some point could now overtake Marvel, we've only talked about DC, right? We haven't talked about Marvel. The biggest obstacle to DC being able to overtake Marvel is going to be Marvel itself. Because we can talk all day about Secret Invasion sucked, and that sucked, and whatever else. And they've put out a lot of mediocre stuff recently, and blah, 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 blah. Yep, we can talk about all that, but here's the reality. None of it'll matter if Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars are great. If those movies are great, and they're both like $1.5 to $2 billion films, it won't matter. It won't matter. We're coming off of a $1.3 billion Deadpool and Wolverine movie that is the all-time record holder for the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. And I still can't believe so many people told me that movie wouldn't make $1 billion. I don't know what you were thinking, but it's great. So I think DC's going to make up a lot of ground, but Marvel could just propel itself way into the lead again with the Avengers films. Because listen, we got some question marks coming up, right? I think Thunderbolts looks really good, but it could be disastrous. Captain America 4, had to go through they scrapped a lot of what they shot. They went in for a lot of reshoots. Reshoots can sometimes equal a great movie and sometimes not. So we don't know how Captain America 4 is going to work out. And then Fantastic Four, you got a great director, you got great screenwriters on it, they got a terrific cast, but we don't know how that's going to go. Fantastic Four has never won on the big screen. It's just been loss after loss after loss after loss on the big screen for Fantastic Four. Maybe that'll be it too. But you know what? It won't matter. If Avengers Doomsday kills it, and then following that up, Avengers Secret Wars kills it, it won't matter. They'll be perfectly fine. They'll be perfectly fine. So, anyway, those are the reasons for me personally why I think that DC is poised. They're in a position right now. They've got a lot of things working in their favor right now where it's not so crazy to think they could catch up to and maybe even supersede Marvel. But it'll all depend on the Avengers movies. Anyway, guys, whatever you think, jump down into the comments and let me know. Are there other reasons I'm forgetting? Maybe there's something else you want to add to the conversation. Again, jump into the live comments, into the comment section, and let me know what you guys think. All right. With that down, guys, let's get on to the main reason we're here, shall we? Which is taking your live comments and questions. And we're going to get things started off here with Murray Reich, who writes, I saw Venom 3 and it was okay. I didn't think it was okay, but I'm glad you did. Felt the story rushed / convoluted. Yep. Made no sense. Yep. Credit scenes were a waste. Yep. Only positive is the duo and the emotional end. You know, I agree that the chemistry between Eddie and Venom is, again, the strong point of Venom 3. It's been the strong point of the whole series, and I also thought it was a strong point of this third movie. I thought that was a good thing about the movie. I also thought the action in the third act was quite good. I did. I thought the action in Act 3 was pretty darn good, but that's where it ends. And because I thought the movie was so bad, and as you put it, Murray, so rushed and so convoluted, I didn't think the emotional ending worked. I should have felt it. I should have felt that emotional ending. But because it was so convoluted and so rushed, and so much of the things that led up to that moment made absolutely no sense, it kind of stole away from me the experience of feeling that emotional ending. So, yeah, that part just didn't work for me. But hey, there are people out there who really quite enjoyed it, and that's great. But unfortunately for me, I wasn't one of them. All right. Next up. Brightburns 1985 just sends in a little super chat for to be supportive. Thank you, Brightburns. NK writes, the only good scenes in Joker 2, opening cartoon. I like the opening cartoon. I'm with you on that. The Gary scene, yep, in the court, that was also a good scene. And Joker is me musical number. I would have preferred Lee killing him and the stairs instead. Yeah, in the whole 2+ hour movie, I agree that was pretty much it. The opening little animation and the scene where the guy from Joker 1 was in court. That was it. Literally, that was it. The musical numbers made no sense. There was no character depth. There was no story to tell. So what's Joker 2 about? Well, Joker's in prison, right? Because of what happened in Joker 1. And he now has his trial. Cool. Do we learn new things about Arthur? Oh, no, we don't learn anything new about Arthur. Oh, okay. Well, does some new twist get thrown in there that adds to the story of Joker 1 and, helps alter our understanding of the world he's living in? No. Literally, he's just in jail and then goes to court and goes back to jail and back to court and then the credits roll and it's very unsatisfying. Yeah, so it is what it is. But hey, Quentin Tarantino liked Joker 2. And it's all subjective, right? I mean, if you like Joker 2, that's great. I wish I liked Joker 2 because I like the first one so much. All right. Next up, we go to Isaac Sanchez, who writes, John, did you have a good Halloween yesterday? I did. As a matter of fact, Ann and I yesterday, so we did the show, the John Campea show yesterday, and then Ann and I booked a room at a resort in Palm Springs because on Thursday nights, the main street in downtown Palm Springs gets shut down and they turn it into a big, what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out in the live chat. It's like a big market, not a farmer's market, but artists will be selling their stuff and there'll be some restaurants that'll have a little booth and all that kind of stuff. What's the name for it? It's not called a farmer's market. Maybe it's just a street market. Maybe that's what it's called. Anyway, so they set up they shut down their whole downtown main street. Street festival, block party. Those are good terms, King Daddy and Q. Yeah, block party, street festival, sure. And so Ann and I went down there, ate at a great restaurant, watched a little Thursday night football, walked the street festival, had a great time. Then we were going to be out there all weekend. But then the Dodgers won the World Series. And Ann really wanted to go to the Dodgers World Series parade with our friends. So she did that. I came in and worked, and we're going to go back out to Palm Springs later tonight for the rest of the weekend. But yes, I did have a great Halloween. Thank you so much for asking. All right. Next up, let's see. That was Isaac. Next, we got Matt Thornton, who writes, rumor has it that Harley Quinn season 5 has been delayed until January of 2025. If true, I wonder why they pushed it back. I haven't heard about that, but if true, it's probably has nothing more and nothing less to do with how long it's taking them to get it together. A lot of things happen at studios. Making a show takes a lot of resources. Sometimes resources have to be diverted. Sometimes other things have to be given priority. I don't think it was a creative. I don't think if it is being pushed to, 2025, I don't think it has to do with it being a creative choice. It's probably just hey, we're just not able to get this done in time. So that would be my guess. Again, that's me purely speculating and guessing. All right. Next up. But I do love that Harley Quinn show, Matt. I love it so much. Orange Hand writes, Dodgers didn't beat Yankees. Yankees beat themselves. Only in Game 5. Only in Game 5. Like, the Dodgers bats, I said, for any of you guys who watch Filthy Sports, I called it. Before the series started, I said their bats are just too much for the Yankees. The Yankees don't have a bullpen that are going to be able to handle the Dodger bats. And I said Dodgers in 5. I said Dodgers in 5. Now, yes, the Yankees beat themselves in Game 5, but here's the reality. Even if they didn't have that nuclear meltdown in the 5th inning, that's going to be talked about forever in sports history as the biggest meltdown in World Series history. But here's the reality, dude. The Dodgers were the better team. Everybody acknowledges that. And even if the Yankees had held on to win that game, they were about to go back to LA and they were going to have to win 2 more in a row in LA. And that wasn't going to happen anyway. So did they beat themselves in the one game? Yes. But the Dodgers beat them and all the others. The Dodgers beat them. And even if they held on for Game 5, the Dodgers would have beat them in Game 6 because they just have the better team. They have the better rotation. They have the better bottom lineup, especially the second and third part of the batter lineup. Far better. So it is what it is. All right. Next up, we've got Amin who writes, been waiting for an open mic to ask this. Did you self-publish your book? I did. If so, what was it like and approximately how much did the whole thing cost in the end? Well, the most expensive part of for me anyway, was hiring an editor. Hiring an editor was the most expensive part of my project for doing my book, which you can still find. Just go on Amazon and search for John Campea, The Pride. You can get yours today. That was by far the most. It doesn't really cost anything to self-publish, right? Because like Amazon, once you go through all the steps with Amazon and getting everything all set up, that if I remember right was probably free to get it all set up. Anyway, then Amazon only prints a book once they get ordered. And then Amazon takes their fee from the cost of the book. So there's no really upfront cost, not that I can remember at any rate. They may have changed in the last couple of years, but it's a very simple, easy way to do it. And yeah, for me, the biggest expense, I mean, there was other expensive, the artist who did the cover of my book, who was fabulous, like this great industry artist who I got to do the cover of my book, but the editor was the most expensive part for me. And it was totally worth it. I no matter how good you think you are, I highly recommend getting yourself an editor to help you with that. All right, next up, Robert Presser writes, for the people that say Kathleen Kennedy isn't a Hall of Fame producer, okay, just time out. Anybody who says Kathleen Kennedy isn't a Hall of Fame producer, you're just a fucking idiot. You're just stupid. You're dumb. Of course she's a Hall of Fame producer. Steven Spielberg says she's the greatest producer in the history of Hollywood. Now, you may disagree with him. That's fine. But if she's got a resume like nobody else ever. Anyway, for the people that say that Kathleen Kennedy isn't a Hall of Fame producer, do a 1 to 2 minute Google search and look up the movies she's worked on. Yeah, no, no, you are just like, we can all have an opinion as to how good or bad of a job she's done as the head of a studio at Lucasfilm. we can have that discussion. Absolutely. But her as a straight up Hollywood producer, not as a studio head, but as a producer, she's one of the greatest of all time. And if you don't, like, that's not even a subjective opinion. Like, if you don't understand that, you just don't know anything about movies. That doesn't mean you have to like her. That doesn't mean you have to like her. But when you have some of the greatest filmmakers of all time who's the first one or two on their checklist of the producers they want to work with to help produce their movies is usually Kathleen Kennedy. If you don't acknowledge she's a Hall of Fame producer, I don't know what to tell you. I just don't know what to tell you at that point. You're probably one of those people who believes there are Haitian immigrants eating their neighbors' pets, if you believe that. But anyway, I'm just saying. All right. And again, whether or not she's a Hall of Fame producer is a totally different discussion for how she is as a studio head. That's a totally different thing, because on that, she's not very good at all. All right. Next up, Robert writes in again, DC definitely can overtake Marvel, but it really depends on how Superman is and how 2025 is for Marvel. I want both to do well, but this can go either way. Well, I mean, it's not all dependent on one movie, right? Now, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So the importance of Superman is absolutely big. It is absolutely big, but it is still, in the grand scheme of things, one movie. But you're not wrong in the sense that if Superman sucks, and hey, everybody makes a bad movie now and again. If Superman sucks, it will certainly make their job much harder. If Superman is awesome, it'll certainly make their job a lot easier. And then, of course, there's the Avengers movies that might just keep Marvel in the lead forever. All right. Next up, we got Amin, who writes, I'm deep into writing my first novel, good on ya. Just crossed 50,000 words, 200 pages last week, and it's draining but rewarding and an exciting process. I'm not going to lie, it took me 5 years to do my novel. It shouldn't have, but I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, being an idiot and not knowing what you're doing definitely hinder the process. Yeah, man, I thought I had it all laid out when I started writing the book. And it's not like I spent, 3 days a week, every single week, 52 weeks a year for 5 years writing. No, there were definitely like 3-month blocks. Like, there would be a point where I'd work on it for a few weeks and then go a month without working on it. And then I'd work on it for a few weeks and maybe go 3 months without working on it. Then maybe work on it for 2 or 3 months and then take a month off from working. Like, because life is busy, but it can take a long time. Take your time, make sure you do it right. It's one of the great things about doing a novel instead of a screenplay is that you got all the time in the world. So good on you. I think it's fun to do it. I had a really good time writing my novel. All right. Buster Barnes writes, I can see DC overtaking Marvel quality-wise pretty easily, but box office-wise, I'm not sure, as I can't see anything passing Spider-Man and Avengers, especially with how the box office is at the moment. Remember, when we talk about the potential for DC to maybe overtake Marvel, we're not saying that DC needs to have a movie that makes more than Avengers Endgame. We're talking about overtakes them right now. That right now, DC makes more money with their movies than Marvel does. That doesn't mean they have to have a $2 billion film. Because, yeah, always in the past, something might be bigger. But that's going to be challenging. But then even Marvel, right? Deadpool and Wolverine's their first movie in a while to hit the $1 billion mark. And they had movies like The Marvels that didn't do all that great. They had like Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania didn't do all that great. I mean, and we'll see how things like Captain America 4 and stuff like that do. But yeah, DC doesn't need to overtake Spider-Man No Way Home and Avengers Endgame. They just need to take the lead with wherever they both are in the race. Again, it's still not going to be easy. And Marvel definitely has the advantage. So, we'll see what happens there. All right. Next up, Buster writes in again and says, do you think the amount of MCU projects next year could hurt DC and the hero genre as a whole, especially if most are subpar as they have been lately? I mean, it's not really a question of how many movies they have coming out because they have 3 movies coming out next year, right? They have Captain America, Fantastic Four, and Thunderbolts. The fact that Kevin Feige went back to the drawing board with Captain America 4 after Bob Chapek left and he got his authority back, that I think is a very encouraging sign. I think Thunderbolts looks really good. And Fantastic Four has a great director. That's the most important thing. So, but if all let's play that game. If all the Marvel movies suck next year, it will hurt the whole comic book genre. Because most average filmgoers don't really differentiate between a Marvel movie. Most average filmgoers don't care about the corporate logo on a movie. They just care about the movie. And when people go see a good movie, they go, oh, that comic book movie is really good. I can't wait to go back to see another one. Or, oh, I just went to go see a comic book movie and it sucked. I don't want to go see another one. Like, that happens with average filmgoers, right? And it's understandable. And that's part of the reason why I've always said there's no such thing as comic book movie fatigue. There is mediocre movie fatigue. People are fatigued of mediocrity in their movies. They're not fatigued of comic book movies. When the comic book movies are banging, they want to rush out and go see them. And that's why Deadpool and Wolverine made almost twice as much as any other Deadpool movie. So, yeah, we'll see. But yes, if all of them suck, it could hurt DC. It could hurt them. But, we'll see what happens. All right. Next up. Where are we at here? Actually, I want to call this out because one of my absolute favorite dudes on YouTube is in here. Comics Explained, saying Thunderbolts will be dope, I think, but I think they're taking the wrong direction with Captain America 4. See, it's hard to say. It's hard to say because there are so many disparate rumors and fake BS coming out about what they're doing. Also, and take this for what it's worth, I think the direction a film takes is really just a canister. You can take a questionable direction. I mean, you and I, we've all seen movies that have taken questionable directions, but they executed so well, they ended up being fantastic, incredible movies, right? We've also seen movies absolutely go the right direction, but just blow it and crap the bed. So right now, I would hint that I don't think people, and I got to be careful about what I say about what I know and not say about what I know. I'll just say this. I think there's a lot out there about the direction of Captain America 4 that isn't necessarily accurate, but that doesn't mean it'll be good. It doesn't mean it'll be good. And even if they go in a direction that wouldn't be the direction I would go in, to be honest with you, some of my favorite movies ended up being movies that I didn't initially think they were going in the right direction, but they ended up just doing it so well and so perfectly that I ended up loving it. So we'll see. I mean, absolutely, Captain America 4 could absolutely crap the bed. There's no doubt about it. There's no way around it. It absolutely could. And hopefully they don't, because they would be really nice if they could follow up Deadpool and Wolverine with a good, solid Captain America 4. It'd be awfully nice if they could. And then have that momentum. We got Thunderbolts, and hopefully that can all lead into a strong Fantastic Four. If, maybe, but fingers crossed, man. All right. Next up, Danny Sanchez writes, Agatha, beautiful storytelling, but last scene. Yeah, listen, I'm kind of with you on that. Like, I really, really appreciated Agatha all along, more than I thought I would. And overall, now that the series is over, I say it's a win. It's not as good as WandaVision, but I put it in that conversation with the next tier down. Like, I put it in that conversation with Ms. Marvel, Loki. Yeah, Ms. Marvel, Loki, and Agatha all along are kind of here. WandaVision's up here. These ones are here. Then there's a whole bunch below that. But I agree with you. I'm like, I didn't really love how it ended. Like, I like the last episode that goes over the background of Agatha and her son, Nicholas Scratch. I liked how they did that. I liked their own take on the mythology. I thought that was good. But the way it ended, and I won't go into it for those of you who haven't seen it, yeah, that didn't really work for me either. But the show was so good, it didn't really matter. I was still okay with it, even though, yeah, I agree. I didn't think the ending was great. All right, next up. Robert writes, for as much crap She-Hulk got, and rightfully so with some things, her CGI was way better than stuff in The Flash, like the cameos near the end. You know what? I'm going to say this, and nobody's going to like it, and no one's going to agree. But some of the CGI in Flash was exceptional. Notice I said some. But there's a good amount of the CGI in The Flash that was truly exceptional. There were certain scenes and certain shots that looked horrible, no doubt. But there was something like, I don't know, 1,200 visual effects shots in that movie or something like that. And the majority of them were quite exceptionally well done. But the ones we talk about the most, understandably so, are some of those like cameo ones at the end. But I would also propose this. It's easier to make something that's non-human look less awkward than trying to make a human being, a CGI human being, not look awkward. Right? Because She-Hulk is a big green monster. Our brains understand this isn't a real thing, and we just view it a little bit differently. When a CGI Christopher Reeve comes walking out of the shadows, though, and he is supposed to be a real live human being, that uncanny valley is still there. And they haven't been able to overcome that yet real well. So, yes, She-Hulk looked great, but it's easier to make something like She-Hulk look great than an actual CGI human being. So just something for us to keep in mind when we're looking at all that stuff as well. All right, next up, we've got Demarius Love, who writes, for Game of Thrones movie Fall of Valyria. Yeah, we talked about that on the John Campea show today. I'd be down for, if they actually go through, because we talked about a report in the Hollywood Reporter that says Warner Brothers is right now developing a Game of Thrones theatrical film. No information about it, though. So I said the 3 time periods I would like to see it happen in are either, number 1, in no particular order. Number 1, Old Valyria. Number 2, Aegon the Conqueror coming over with his sister wives and what I call the taming of Westeros. Or number 3, a true sequel to Game of Thrones with Jon Snow after he's gone north of the wall after the events and having to come back. Those are the 3 I like to see, but Fall of Valyria, or even just a story set in Old Valyria, kind of like Old Republic, I think would also be pretty good. All right, next up, Gavin Mohang writes, I think DC needs to lean into the different genres and tones like they have with Elseworlds. I think that's how they can succeed and differ from Marvel. Yes and no. Like, I would also argue that Marvel itself has leaned into different tones, right? And you can find definitely Marvel has its DNA. Marvel, the MCU has its DNA. And I think it's okay for the new DCU to also develop its own DNA of what a DCU movie is. But I think it would be to their benefit to also stretch beyond that DNA. And they already have. They've got the Penguin and Matt Reeves' stuff. They're going to have they've got their Suicide Squad and Peacemaker tone. Now we're going to get with whatever we're going to get in Superman. So I think they will both establish what their core DNA for their new cinematic universe is, but at the same time, not be afraid to stretch those boundaries, do a lot of Elseworld stories, tell things that push the envelope. They're clearly not afraid of R-rated stuff. So we'll see how that kind of goes. All right. Next up, Alex Von Gollum writes, about Agatha's finale. When Agatha said, sometimes boys die, in the line itself, Catherine's delivery and the look in her face, it was so powerful. At that moment, I knew they'd go deep into her story. I mean, I think the moment I think most of us figured they would go deep into her story was, I think it was episode 3. I think it was episode 3 or 4, somewhere around there. When they got poisoned and they were having their delusions and she saw the baby's crib and then pulled back the blanket and saw the Darkhold instead. I still want to know what the meaning of the Darkhold was, but at that moment, and when they were doing the Ouija egg, Nicholas Scratch, right? I think at that point we knew at some point in Agatha all along, they'd go more into Nicholas Scratch, Agatha's background, the whole history of the Witch's Road, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that line was very well delivered. Excellent, excellent line. Yeah, like a lot. Okay. Next up, David Cushmore writes, how's your Halloween? It was very good, thank you. Did you get any candy or pass them out to people, to other trick-or-treaters? Ann and I went to Palm Springs to go to a resort, so we weren't home. Oh, you're one of those couples that don't give out candy on Halloween. No, Ann loves giving out candy on Halloween. Here's the problem. Our neighborhood is awesome, but there's not very many kids in our neighborhood. And so last year, Anne was so excited about Halloween, man. She got so much candy. We had like 2 massive like punch bowls filled with candy. Not one trick-or-treater. We didn't get a single trick-or-treater. And Anne was so sad. And my blood sugar was so sad. Because that meant I had to eat a lot of candy over the next couple of weeks. And eat a lot of candy I did. But she was so depressed. She got all dressed up. She was all excited. She had a chair set inside the door so she could sit and be ready to open the door and go, "Happy Halloween," and hand out candy. And oh, she was so excited. And not one fucking kid showed up for trick or treat. She was so sad, man. So sad. And so this year we just decided, you know what, let's go out. And so we went to Palm Springs. Anyway, thanks for the question, man. All right, next up. Kaiser Soze writes, I've stopped going to the MCU films because I don't have nostalgia for these D-list characters. At least I knew who Iron Man was. Do X-Men, and I'm back. Yeah, I mean, listen, Kaiser, to each their own. To each their own for sure. But did you not watch The Godfather because you didn't have any nostalgia connected to The Godfather? Did you not watch Oppenheimer because you didn't grow up with a Oppenheimer comic book? Did you not go to see, I don't know, Django Unchained because you never read the original Django? You never saw the original Django Unchained, and I just have no background with that character? I mean, again, to each their own. We all have different things that motivate us to want to see certain movies and not see other certain movies. Nothing wrong with that. I would just encourage you as your fellow film lover that if you're only going to go to movies to things that are stuff you already know, I think you're robbing yourself of some really, really good stuff. You're robbing yourself of some really good stuff. Don't look at it as, well, I don't have a background connection to that character, so I'm just gonna skip it. Look at it rather as an opportunity. It's like, you know what? This is great. I don't have any background baggage with this character, so I'll be watching this new thing from a totally clean slate. This is great. Like, so I would encourage you to look at it from that point of view. Again, we all have the things that motivate us. Maybe that's the thing that motivates you, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just encouraging you as your fellow film fan that maybe you could see it as an opportunity to be exposed to these new characters that maybe you didn't know anything about before. All right. Next up, we've got Mega Red 555 says, have you seen Conclave yet? I love it. Not yet. Gonna go see it tomorrow. No, sorry. Take that back. Not tomorrow. Gonna see it Sunday. Ann and I are seeing it on Sunday. This is a movie I have been so I mean, Stanley Tucci, Jonathan Lithgow, the greatest actor in the world without an Academy Award, Ralph Fiennes, and maybe this is his year to get it. I've been kind of hyped about this movie ever since I saw the presentation for it at CinemaCon back in April. And yeah, I cannot wait to watch it. It's getting buzz for Best Picture, and we'll see how that all goes. All right. Next up, we've got Mega Red 55555 who writes, DC has the advantage of the rebooted canon. Yes, it does. A perfect time for anyone to jump in with no need to catch up on content. I just said that myself. And the creatives are allowed to tell their story without the burden of canon. That is, it's an absolute truism. The deeper canon gets, people don't like hearing this, but the deeper canon gets, the more and more creatively handcuffed the storytellers become. There is a reason, and, you know, Comics Explained would be perfect at explaining this, but there is a reason why so many times both DC and Marvel have kind of reset. They've reset because, okay, we've gone as far as we can with this. If we want to tell stories now that we're going to have to restart. And they've restarted again and again and again. So when you do get one of those opportunities to have a fresh page one start, it comes with some advantages, and hopefully they're able to take advantage of that. All right, next up, David Cushmore writes, do you like Halloween movies? I like Halloween Kills, not bad of a movie. Do you have a favorite Halloween movie? I'll be honest with you, and this is a very unpopular thing with a lot of people, but I haven't liked any of the Halloween movies except one. You know how they just had the new three, the three most recent ones they've done? The first one of the new Halloween movies that, I don't know, came out like 5 years ago. I thought the first one was great. And I have never liked a Halloween movie. I don't even like the original. I'm very unpopular amongst my friends because I'm sorry guys, I've watched the original again. And I honestly don't think the original's that good. I acknowledge it's one of the all-time classic, most appreciated horror films and iconic horror films of all time. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying I don't actually like it that much. But that first one they did with Jamie Lee Curtis back a couple of years ago, not the sequel and definitely not the third one, but that first one they did a couple of years ago, I thought was really, really good. I really liked that one. I was shocked because I've never liked a Halloween film before that. All right, guys, listen. I'm gonna turn off. If you've got a question to ask, you've got about 30 more seconds because I meant to turn off super chats like 15 minutes ago and I totally forgot. And there's a lot of questions for me to still ask. So I'm going to turn off the super chats here in about 10 seconds now. Now, we're going to get to all the rest of the questions that are here. But before we do, we're going to take a quick moment and thank the sponsor of today's episode, our friends over at The Perfect Gene. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, The Perfect Gene. Look, you guys know I've been talking about The Perfect Gene for a while now. I absolutely love these. They fit like a dream, they look fantastic, and they are so comfortable, you forget you're even wearing pants. We all love jeans, but look, we all also know they can be a little bit uncomfortable for the boys, but not with The Perfect Gene. These jeans fit like they were custom made, stretch like you wouldn't believe, and they look absolutely fantastic. The Perfect Gene also has a seriously massive range of sizes, everything from 26 to 50 and lengths of 26 to 38. These have become my absolute go-to jeans whenever I'm hanging around the house or even going out for the day. And listen, the Perfect Gene isn't even just pants. They've revolutionized t-shirts as well. The Perfect Tee has just enough stretch to hide that beer belly while accentuating your arms and chest for that flawless look. My guys, it's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectgene.nyc. Our listeners get 15% off your first order, plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use the code Campea at checkout. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectgene.nyc with the promo code Campea. And after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the John Campea Show and tell them we sent you. F your khakis and get the Perfect Gene. And thank you to our friends at The Perfect Gene for sponsoring today's episode of Open Mic. All right, guys. With that down, I have now turned off super chat, so if you've sent them in, good on you. I'm now going to get caught up on the ones we have not answered yet, so give me a second to find out where we left off. Oh, that was easy. I found out where we left off. Okay, we're going to pick things up here with Alex Von Gollum, who writes, I wanted to see Ian McKellen's The Critic in theaters mid-September. Couldn't go the week it was in Cineplex's schedule, so I decided to see it the following week. But at the time, it was completely gone. I don't think it had a wide release. Like, I think I remember that was one of the movies that we looked around here, because I don't live in LA proper now. I live out in Riverside, which is about an hour outside of LA. And so the theaters out here, we get all the major wide release films, but we don't get all the limited release films. And I think, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a little bit, I don't think it got a full wide release. I don't think it did, so that might have been one of the reasons that you weren't able to get to it. All right, next up, Alex Von Gollum writes in again. From the GTA theater, oh, this was a continuation. From the Greater Toronto Area theaters, if theaters start having random theatrical release lengths, they'll force customers to just wait for movies being on streaming. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. I mean, movies have always had varying length runs, right? If a movie does not have anybody going to it, then a movie theater is going to pull that movie out and put in a movie that will have more people interested in going. Because remember, it's not, for the movie theaters, it's not the ticket sale. They don't care about the ticket sale. The movie theaters literally only keep 1/3 of the ticket price. So if you spend $15 on a movie ticket, great, but the movie theater only keeps about $5 of it. Movie theaters make their money on you and I buying candy. I've told you this before, but at CinemaCon one year, the head of CinemaCon got up and rightly said, we are not in the movie business, movie theater owners. We are in the candy business. And that's true. That's really where they make their money. That's how they keep their lights on. That's how they pay their staff. That's how they stay in business, is selling popcorn and soda. And so here's the thing. If they can have a movie in a theater and only 5 people buy tickets, but they can put another movie in that theater that maybe only sells 15 tickets, that's not only 10 extra people buying tickets, that's 10 extra people buying soda and Reese's Pieces and popcorn and what have you. So they're going to do that. So the movie theaters have always had movies that have been in theaters and stayed in theaters for a really long time because they've continued to do well. And there have always been movies that have popped up in a movie theater and disappeared in like 10 days. But also for the type of movie you're talking about, there have also always been limited release movies that have either been limited in the number of theaters they played in or limited for how long their stay in a theater was going to be. So that's not really a new thing in the industry. That's kind of always been around. All right. Next up, we've got Mighty Tank 1 writes, really enjoyed the Agatha finale, but makes me wonder why didn't she use the Witch's Road song on Wanda? If she wanted her power, all she had to do was piss her off. No, but remember in WandaVision, the big thing with Agatha was trying to figure out how she had that power. Remember? Like the whole thing about her is like, it took a ridiculous amount of power to create the hex that she had created. And what Agatha wanted to know is like, how are you doing this? And I don't think just getting zapped, you steal all of that person's power. If that was the case, Agatha had absorbed the power of like 40 witches and she would be like God tier, right? But she's not God tier. She's very powerful, but she's not God tier, right? If she just absorbed the power of like hundreds of witches over the years, the Salem 7 could come after her all they want. She would just go and she'd kill the Salem 7. So I don't think it was a direct thing. I think it nourished her. I think it replenished her. I think it kept her alive. I think maybe even gave her a little bit of a power bump. But I don't think that when a witch would blast her, she would just absorb all of their power, like the Highlander or something like that. Again, because otherwise she would be a Thanos level threat at that point. So again, she wasn't there to kill Wanda or just steal her power. She was there to figure out how a single witch was doing all of that. That's what she was there to figure out. All right. Good question though, Mighty Tank. All right. Next up, we've got Abe writes, how's your hype level for Dune Prophecy? For me, it's at an all-time high and my friends are throwing a big watch party for the premiere. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty stoked. I was modestly excited about it because you know, it is set so far back in the past. I generally don't get all that excited for prequel stuff, although this is not like 5 years in the past. It's like thousands of years in the past. So that's got that going for it. But man, the most recent trailer was balls. It was so good. The last trailer was so good that it's got me pretty hyped. Like I'm not as excited for it as I am for like a few other things, but I'm quite excited for Dune Prophecy. I can't wait for it to start. All right. Next up, Jared Oberfeld writes, have you heard of a company named Cosm? Yes. If not, I say check it out. They are located in LA with locations in Dallas and Atlanta coming in the next few years. So Cosm, for those of you who don't know, and if you get one near you, go check it out. It's basically an arena. How do I put this? IMAX screen, nothing. It's set like stadium seating, and it is this monstrous, curved, super high ceiling all the way to the floor, immersive broadcast of a game. So there are people, I kid you not, Ann and I wanted to go see Game 4 of the World Series because it was in New York at Cosm. The tickets were $400 a ticket to sit and watch it on a screen. Yeah. And it was like $400 a ticket. Granted, it was the World Series. and the Dodgers were in the World Series, and this was in Los Angeles. But I had a friend of mine, actually, hold on a second. Let me see. A friend of mine went to it and texted me a picture. Just give me a quick second here to see if I can find it. I'm sure I can. Nuts. I can't pull. I don't have my phone here. Anyway, look it up. COSM. Cosm. Go look it up. It looks insane. I think Ann and I maybe next weekend might try to go and watch a football game there. It looks absolutely sick. If you live in the Dallas area, or if they open one up near you, gotta go. We're gonna go see it next week. All right. Next up, Isaac Sanchez writes, remember Gen V, the Boys spinoff series? The one that takes place in Godolphin University? That one? Anyway, remember Gen V, the Boys spinoff series? Well, season 2 is officially wrapped filming and will release next year. Are you excited to see this? Yes. I thought I don't think Gen V was as good as The Boys, but it was great. It was great. I really, really like Gen V a lot. The whole Muppet episode I thought was really good too. But yeah, I mean, obviously I really liked it. I thought it was great. I'm also interested to see this new, what's it called? Like The Boys Mexico? Is that what it's called? I can't remember, but they're really spinning this whole thing off, and we'll see how long it can have its run like that. But yeah, I love Gen V. I thought Gen V was great. All right, next up. Gavin writes, saw your Instagram post. Congratulates on Filthy Sports. That's right. So I'm not sure if I can bring this up on screen or not. I'll try, but if you go right now to the front page, there it is. If you go right now to the front page of Spotify and you go to their sports page, right now, the first 3 sports podcasts you will see on the front page of Spotify's sports page is The Pat McAfee Show. I love Pat McAfee. First Take. Love First Take. And Filthy Sports. Filthy Sports is up there right now. So I don't really know how that happened, but super excited about that. I think that's pretty fun. So yeah, so thank you for that. I appreciate that. And for those of you who don't know, we do a weekly sports podcast, me and a bunch of guys, called Filthy Sports, and it's on Mondays. We were doing it 4 days a week, but we said, you know what? That's too much for right now. Let's just do a weekly podcast for now, and then we'll build it up if we want to. But it's on Mondays. Go and subscribe to the channel. Just search for Filthy Sports, and you should find our channel. Go subscribe to it, and the next podcast comes out on Monday. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. All right. Mega Red writes, Godzilla -1 releases this weekend. I don't know what do you mean it releases this? Are they putting it back in theaters this weekend? I know they were just talking that the filmmaker's going to do another one, which is very exciting. But yeah, so are they re-releasing it? Are they releasing it on a streaming service? I'm not sure. Mega Red is saying it re-releases. Okay, good. Nice. I'm not going to go see it again. I've already seen it like 3 times, but man, I really like -1. It was so good. All right. Next up, we've got Luis writes, as a DC fan, I'm excited about James Gunn's Superman and the new DCU, but there is a small group of fans who want the DCU to fail and bring back the DCEU/Snyderverse. Will these fans ever move on? Yes. Yep. It'll take some time. It'll take time. Now look, I am a Zack Snyder fan. I mean, God, I hated his awful... What the fuck were those new movies he just put on Rebel Moon? That was some of the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life. Those 2 Rebel Moon movies are dog shit. That aside, I'm actually somebody who quite appreciates a lot of Zack Snyder's films. I even liked his zombie one, The Army of the Dead. I had a lot of fun. I know not everybody liked it. I personally really had a good time with Army of the Dead. I thought it was really fun. But listen, I really liked, obviously I love Man of Steel. I mean, I got Henry Cavill standing right here. I love Man of Steel. Love, one of my all-time favorite comic book movies. I love Man of Steel. I even like Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. I even liked both the theatrical version of Justice League and the HBO version of Justice League. The HBO version of Justice League was better, but I liked them both. I liked every single one of Zack Snyder's DCEU movies. And I loved Wonder Woman, not 84, but I loved Wonder Woman. I liked most of the DC films, but you can't be an idiot. You can't bury your head in the sand. Even though there was a lot of stuff there that I liked, the reality was that the DCEU failed. It just did. Like, I'm sorry, that's not a subjective opinion. That mathematically, look at the numbers, look at the statistics. It failed and was doing this. It was descending into the depths of darkness rapidly. So, of course, when you like something, you want to hold on to it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. If you love something and you kind of wish you could keep going with it and you could hold on. But at some point, even if you like it, like I do, you have to still acknowledge the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that that cinematic universe was a failure and the audience had given up on it. And if you had just kept trying to go at it, it was just going to continue to fail. The only thing they could do at this point was to reset and restart it. And that's what they did. And eventually, after you go through the stages of grief, eventually most people will come around. And you know what they say? Winning cures everything. So if the Superman movie comes out and is bonkers good, it'll win a lot of people back over. So we'll see. All right. Next up. We've got Sean Brennan writes, do you think Superman handled by James Gunn could have the same effect that Captain America had in the MCU? Him being gone has really hurt, in my opinion. I don't think Superman being gone, well, I mean, look, Captain America being gone has hurt the MCU. No doubt. I mean, look, we all knew after Avengers Endgame, I remember making an editorial about this a few years ago. After Avengers Endgame, Marvel was going to face a really stiff challenge with the fact that the two characters and actors who have been the face and the heartbeat of the MCU, Chris Evans is Captain America, Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. They were the faces and the heart and the soul of the MCU. They were the identity of the MCU. And when one movie took them both out, not saying it was the wrong thing. I'm just saying we all pretty much recognize that that was going to present a real challenge. And I would suggest that even though Marvel has had definitely some great wins, Spider-Man No Way Home, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, WandaVision, Deadpool and Wolverine, like they've had some big wins. I think most people would agree that the MCU right now kind of lacks a sense of identity. They have not been able to fill in the shoes or fill in the gap that was left behind in the absence of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and Chris Evans' Captain America. And they've definitely still made some good stuff. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying, I think most of us would agree, if we really think about it, the MCU doesn't feel cohesive anymore. And it can again. I'm just saying right now, it just lacks an identity right now. And I honestly think that the absence and the sudden disappearance of both Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans had a lot to do with that. And that is one thing they've not been able to kind of address, is the gap that left. And maybe Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Doom does something of that a little bit. I don't know. We'll find out. All right, next up, we got Cristobal writes, is PW reliable? There is a new plot detail on Spider 4. I have no idea what PW is. Production Weekly, maybe? Are we talking? Maybe it's Production Weekly? Production Weekly, I would say this. Production Weekly is absolutely reliable about what is going into production. Right? So because there have been stories that have been broken out of Production Weekly, it's like somebody recognizes Production Weekly said that I don't know, I'm going to make up a movie. The 6-Shooter is going into production next May. If Production Weekly says that, you can pretty much take it to the bank. Plot details is not really what Production Weekly does. There have been times that Production Weekly has put details to go with production dates. Again, production dates, 100%. But there have been numerous times that project details, which is not Production Weekly's main forte, they've put stuff in there that has turned out to not be true. And they're not trying to deceive anybody. They just, okay, project, it's this, we heard, what's it about that? Okay, put it in. So I would say, as far as getting plot details from Production Weekly, I would take that with a grain of salt. If a Production Weekly says a certain project is going into production at a certain time in a certain place, I would rely on that. But when it comes to plot and story details, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying I would take anything out of Production Weekly with a grain of salt. So take that as you will. All right. Next up, Patrick Hamilton writes, Wayne's brothers are back making another installment of the Scary Movie franchise. Yes, they are. They were never as good when they left after the second movie. I'm going to say another unpopular thing. I don't think they were ever good at all. And I'm somebody who loves the Wayne brothers. I love them. But I'm just a guy, I've never particularly found the scary movies very good. And you know, nothing is more subjective than humor. Nothing is more subjective than humor. And Anne loves the first couple of scary movies. They've never made me laugh. I mean, okay, let me walk that back a little bit. There have been moments. There were moments in certain gags that did make me laugh, but yeah, I found spoof movies spoof movies went to crap. Like after you had movies like Hot Shots and I always freeze on the one with Val Kilmer. What was the one with Val Kilmer? Oh, I'm freezing on the name of it. But, you know, you had the age of Spaceballs, and that's up for debate whether Spaceballs is a pure comedy or if it's a spoof movie. Thank you. Guys in the live chat, Charles Becerra was the first guy to mention the Val Kilmer one, which is really good. It's called Top Secret. So thank you to Spirit Man and Charles and Charlie for putting in Top Secret is so good. I think it's great. Also, some people mention White Chicks. I thought White Chicks was kind of funny. I thought White Chicks was better than any of the scary movies, but that's just me. That's just me. All right. Next up, we got Spencer Smothers, who writes, what NFL games are you interested in this weekend? I'll be honest with you, I haven't even looked at the game lineup this week. I don't even know who the games are. I don't even know who the Bills are playing. I don't know who Jacksonville's playing. I don't know who Kansas City's playing. I don't know. I haven't looked at the list yet. I've just been so busy this week. I haven't even looked. I mean, obviously I knew the Texans were playing the Jets because that was Thursday night's game. That was last night. But I don't know what the games are this weekend. I haven't looked them up yet. All right, next up. Risky Pins writes, do you think Fantastic Four could beat Superman at the box office? 100%. 100%. As a matter of fact, I expect it to beat Superman at the box office. I've been telling people this for a year now. Superman is not going to do huge business at the box office. And it's not important that it does. Warner Brothers and James Gunn understands that it's going to take time to rehabilitate the image of DC movies. We've already talked ad nauseum about the fact that the audience gave up on DC movies. They just stopped going to them. All you got to do is look at the box office results of all the last 4 or 5 DC movies. They all went to crap. So there's going to be a lot of people that at first are not going to be willing to right off the bat jump on board with DC and a new Superman. Especially if they were in on the DCEU and didn't like it, and a lot of people didn't, then they might be hesitant. What is important is that Superman is great. It's not important that the first movie makes money. It's important that the first movie is great so it helps the next 10 movies make money. So, do I think Fantastic Four will make more money than Superman? Absolutely I do. 100%. Do I think Fantastic Four will be better than Superman? Well, that I don't know. But that's the important question, because it's their first movie out of the gate. They need that movie to be great. They don't need it to make $700 million, although it'd be nice if it did. They need it to be great so people start to have a positive association with the DC brand again, and so more people will come out to the next movie and to the next movie. That's the important part. That's the important part. All right. Next up, we got Charles Becerra, who sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Charles, for supporting our channel on that level, man. Appreciate that, dude. Let's see. Aha! Je vais parler de Shogun, mon ami. Gotcha, John. LOL. I want to chat a little and want your overall thoughts on the show and its Emmy wins. Most of all, what was left out and what was changed? Habs aren't ruling side. No, but the Leafs are doing pretty well so far. Shogun, by the way, merci beaucoup, mon ami. Shogun is just one of the best things I've seen on TV in years. I couldn't believe how good Shogun was. And you know, there were two shows over the past 5 years that I was dying to see. One was Rings of Power, not season 2. I'm talking about season 1. Rings of Power, ludicrously excited about it. Left disappointed. The second one was Shogun. Got so excited they were going to do Shogun, and Shogun exceeded my expectations. They did such a great job of just building that world. And the characters were so rich. And I mean, Sonata as Lord Toranaga was just perfection. Absolute perfection. I mean, all the cast, Cosmo was great. I mean, and all the Emmys, broke all the records for Emmy wins for a drama series. So well deserved. I was so happy when they said they were going to do a second season, because there's so much more story you can tell there with these characters. So I was thrilled with it, loved it, can't wait for it to come back, and loved all the Emmys that it won as well. All right, thanks for that, Charles. And again, thanks for tipping that much and supporting us, dude. We appreciate that. All right, next up. C. Black writes, I'm taking these receipts about Feige and MCU. James Gunn waited too long to take advantage of the MCU. No, he didn't. It takes a long time to make a movie. 2 Avengers movies, Spider-Man and Mutant Saga coming up. Missed the window during Phase 4 down period. No, not at all. Not at all. Like, here's the thing. There is nobody, people still refuse to believe this, and I'm sorry, this is the truth. Nobody is cheering for high-quality, successful MCU projects more than James Gunn is. And nobody is cheering for high-quality, successful DC projects more than Kevin Feige is. Kevin Feige himself has explained this ad nauseum, because James Gunn and Kevin Feige understand that to most of the remember, the average movie-going audience is 95% of the movie-going audience. You and me, we're like 5% of the audience. We represent like 5% of the audience. And James Gunn and Kevin Feige, who have both explained this ad nauseum, understand that the better the overall product of comic book movies are, the better it is for everybody in the space. James Gunn should not have rushed out the door a new Superman movie. With how much crap and what a terrible state the DCEU was in, James Gunn couldn't come in, take over and go, okay, we're going to start shooting a Superman movie in 5 days. Everybody go. No. They took their time. They wrote out a great script. They cast it. They did the proper amount of time to make a Superman movie. And from conception to release date, it's not an unreasonable amount of time. It's actually a pretty good amount of time. And they've got it coming out. So their opportunity to catch up with Marvel is not about coming out when Marvel movies aren't out, because that's pointless. Because great, you put some movies out when Marvel movies aren't out, but then those Marvel movies do come out anyway. It's about competing 1-to-1. Not about coming out before the other ones come out. It's about, can your movies stand up with, quality-wise, audience engagement-wise, and then eventually box office-wise, can they go and stand there with the MCU? Because the DCU has never been able to do that. It's not about coming out when they don't have movies coming out. It's about the quality of your stuff, not about the quality of the other guy. It's about the quality of your stuff. So no, I don't think they missed any opportunity at all. And I think if they tried to rush a Superman movie, just crap it out as fast as you can, like Bob Chapek was making Marvel do for a while, then they would have been dooming the MCU, or they would have been dooming the DC universe right from the start. So no, they did not miss their opportunity at all. Not at all. Now, if they make a crappy movie, then they've missed their opportunity, no doubt. All right, thanks for that, C Black. Next up, Lamont Smalls writes, with a lot of shows being removed from streaming services such as Disney Plus and Paramount Plus, 2 originals and Cartoon Network shows off Max, should we fear shows like The Office, Friends, and MCU content being removed? No, because that's content that there will always be an audience for, right? Streaming services will fight over shows like The Office to have on their streaming services. Places will fight to have Friends on their streaming services. People will, and yeah, Marvel's not going to be taking in their, at least not their hardcore MCU stuff. Like, you're not going to see Thor disappear or anything like that. Generally speaking, the stuff that disappears from streaming services, and I'm saying disappears, not moves from one streaming service to another. That's different. The stuff that disappears from streaming services are normally the things that weren't getting many people watching it, and that it was costing the streamer more money to have it on their streaming service than they were actually getting benefit from. So we do live in an era where content disappearing is an issue. But it's never going to be content like The Office, and it's never going to be content like Seinfeld, and it's never going to be content like Friends, and it's never going to be content like Avengers. It's never going to be that content. But yeah, unfortunately, part of the reality of the new era is that, like, smaller shows, less successful shows, things that the studio would rather forget about, like that. Why am I freezing on the name of the George Lucas film? Guys, they made the show about it, and George Lucas made it with Mad Mardigan. Willow. Thank you. I froze on Willow. Thank you, Leonardo. Leonardo was the first one to put in Willow. Yeah, there will be shows like that the studio would just rather forget about and just not want to pay any more residuals to people for, and they'll just shovel it away. That stuff will happen. But like the higher visibility stuff, the higher content stuff, I don't think we ever have to worry about that disappearing, because there will always be other streamers that will fight to have that content. But it is going to be a challenge, Lamont. Like, even for the smaller content, that's an issue they got to address. All right. Suthius writes, all right, Mr. C, if you were, say, 10 to 15 years younger, would your life road tour be more viable and more of a possibility? If you were, say, 10 to 15 years younger, would your life road tour be more viable and more of a possibility? Like, if I were to try to start again? If I'm understanding your question right, if I were able to start again, listen, I'm not going to lie. While I am a fucking nobody Canadian dude living in California doing YouTube videos from my base, or not from my basement, from my garage, I have, the last 20 years, I hate use, it sounds like such a pompous word, but it's true. I've been blessed, man. I really have. I've been able to leave other career and chase something that I'm passionate about and make a career out of it. Oh, you're talking, okay, wait a second. People are saying, no, he's talking about, taking things on the road. I thought I meant like a life road. Your not life. You said live. Would your live road tour be more viable and more of a possibility? No, it's not about, if I was 10 or 15 years younger than I am now, it would just still be the same situation. Because there's like the only thing stopping me from doing the live road tour that my management wants me to do is it's too much work. It's just too much work. Like when we put on those 2 live ones we did, it was ridiculous. It took a ridiculous amount of effort, like a ridiculous amount of time and effort. And we loved it and we had a great time doing it and they sold out and it was great, but it was just so much effort to do it. And so, no, if I was 10 years older, if I was 10 years younger, no, it's just too much effort to do it. And so I told my management, I said, tell you what, because my management has been desperately trying to get me to do this nationwide tour thing, which number one, I think is ridiculous because I'm simply not big enough. I don't have the audience to sustain a nationwide tour. I mean, it's one thing for me to do some live events when I'm at Comic-Con, because that's when all of our people come together, or in LA because it's LA, right? That's one thing. But one of the big arguments I've always had with my management is that, go do the John Campea live in Buffalo. I love Buffalo, by the way. In Buffalo, and like 3 people will show up, and 2 of them will be cousins that came across the border from Hamilton to see me. So there's that. But then anyway, I told my management, I'll tell you what, you book everything, you come up with the dates, you handle the ticketing situation, you handle the transportation, you handle everything, and just tell me where and when to go. And sure, I'll do it. No problem. But it's a lot of work. So no, if I was 10 years older, it wouldn't make a difference. The age I'm at, it's not a difference. If I was 10 years younger, it wouldn't make a difference. It's just too much, man. Just too much to do. If somebody else wants to do all the hard stuff for me, I'll do it. Otherwise, it's a little bit too much. All right. CR writes, I'm watching Smallville for the first time. Nice. On season 6, Clark's Earth parents are the kindest TV parents I've ever seen. I love all the characters so far, but I think Lex is my favorite. Yeah, Michael Rosenbaum, who, by the way, if you didn't know this, Robert Meyer Burnett has been working for ages now on this big audio drama called, it's not Film Noir. It's something noir. Why am I freezing on the name of Rob's? I always freeze on names of everything. What's the name of it, guys? What's the name of Rob's project? It's Blank Noir. True Noir. Thank you. Charles was the one who reminded me. It was True Noir is the name of it. Anyway, Rob's been working tirelessly for months and months and months on this True Noir thing. And for those of you who do not know, Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex Luthor and has his excellent podcast, Inside of You. I love Michael Rosenbaum's podcast. Is the lead voice in Rob's audio drama, True Noir. So just a big thing, just a little side note about that. Anyway, if you see Rob, let him know that I do indeed plug his stuff. So yeah, Lex, one of the things about Smallville, because I really loved Smallville, I did, but I did find that it started to wane, like a lot of shows do in their later seasons. And I think the absence of Michael Rosenbaum was one of those big reasons. Not Michael so much as the Lex character was a big reason for that. But yeah, Smallville was such a terrific show. And yeah, I'm kind of jealous you get to watch it for the first time. That's really cool. All right. Next up, we got VTech, who writes, Ridley Scott is working on a new Alien film following the success of Romulus, suggesting the intro of new characters and a unique storyline. Thoughts? You know what? let it go, Ridley. Other people have started to pick up the alien thing, and they're doing it better than you have lately. I'm not saying they've done it better than you have overall. I'm just saying Romulus is the best alien movie in forever. I mean, it was better than Covenant. It was better. I mean, it's just Alien Romulus was the best alien movie we've had in, I'll say this. Alien Romulus is the best alien movie since Aliens. So yeah, you got Alien and Aliens. Those are the two best, obviously. But after that, I think Alien Romulus is the best thing we've had. I'll be honest with you. I know there are some people kind of excited about the idea of Ridley Scott going back to develop more Alien, but I'll be honest with you right now, it makes me nervous. I'd rather him leave it alone, but who knows? Maybe it'll turn out to be great. And after we see Gladiator 2, maybe we'll go, Ridley Scott is back, baby. I hope we do. But right now, honestly, more than anything, it just makes me more nervous. All right. Comic fan writes, we ever go back on Cameo? I don't think so. And by the way, I'm not dissing on Cameo. I'm not dissing on Cameo at all. I think Cameo is awesome. We are talking about the app thing where you can buy a personal message from somebody, right? Am I thinking about the right thing when you say Cameo? Anyway, I'm just going to assume we are. So I think Cameo is great. Like my buddy Ryan, who's on Filthy Sports with us, he loves, like his big celebrity crush is Jennifer Love Hewitt. That's a good one. And I remember I was able to, as a gift, I bought him a cameo from Jennifer Love Hewitt. And it's great. And she sent him a personal message, video message, and stuff like that. It's awesome. So I don't know. So I thought, okay, I had Cameo reached out to me and they asked me if I wanted to set up a Cameo. And I'm like, okay. And I set one up. And I had a bunch of people request them, and I did a few, and I'm realizing, you know what? I don't feel comfortable doing these. I feel like I'm being fake. I'm not saying the other people who do Cameo are. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying for me, I felt kind of fake doing it, and I found that I didn't want to do them anymore. So I canceled a bunch of them and I stopped doing it. So no, I don't think I'll do Cameo. And besides, I mean, why would anybody want to get a cameo from me when there are real celebrities on there and they can just tune into my YouTube channel and see me any day that they want? So no, I will probably not go back to Cameo, but I think Cameo is a great service. I think it gives joy to a lot of people. I think it's great. I'm just not well suited for it. And I'm not famous. I'm not popular enough anyway. So there's that. But anyway, thanks for asking, man. All right, next up, we got King Daddy Goat, who writes, your Lakers are beating your Raptors at halftime. Well, they better beat the Raptors because they're terrible. The Raptors are terrible this year. And the Lakers, after getting their asses handed to them against Cleveland the other night, they need a bounce back at the moment, King Daddy. All right. Payne writes, I wonder if the Lego movies that are coming out will be like Small Soldiers or Indian in the Cupboard. Yeah, so we talked on the John Campea show earlier today about how Warner Brothers has announced they are making 3 live-action Lego movies. And they've announced their directors, Jake Kasdan, who did the Jumanji movies, Patty Jenkins, who did Wonder Woman, and Cormish, who did Attack the Block. They're going to be doing 3 of them. I have no idea what these are going to look like. Like, are they going to be like Sonic, where it's a real world with real actors, but then you have Lego characters in CGI in a real world environment? Like, I just don't know how they're going to do it. But yeah, along those lines, that could absolutely work too, Payne. That could be the way they're doing it. It's a good thought. So let's wait and see how they actually decide to manage that. All right. RJ MacReady writes, any chance that the comic book run Justice League International is going to be the fountain, probably meant the foundation, for the DCU more or less? I don't think so. Like, comic book movies, other than things like Sin City, really aren't based on any one comic book, right? most comic book movies, even when they have a namesake like Age of Ultron or Civil War, they'll borrow elements from its namesake, but then also draw elements and inspiration from a wide variety of other stories as well as a bunch of original concepts and ideas, and can then kind of make this conglomeration of an idea, and hopefully it's good, right? So no, I honestly don't think anything's going to take from one storyline or one era of comics or one thing. I think you'll see elements from dozens of different types of storylines and things that they've done in different titles, but I don't think there's going to be one or two things that you say, this is taken from that. I don't really think that, because again, even like Civil War was like totally different from the Civil War in the comic book. So I don't think that they will have any one main fountain that they draw from. I think it's going to be from a river of stuff. Anyway, good question, RJ. Next up, Tommy writes, John, which projects after Fantastic Four would you put in motion to get fans excited for Doom if Marvel called you today for help? Honestly, I don't think you need to get the audience excited for Doom. I just think you need to have him introduced and do great. Look, they didn't need to get the audience excited for Darth Vader before Star Wars came out. They didn't need to get the audience excited for this. Like, they just didn't. You came out with the movie and you made him awesome. You don't have to, like, the comic book audience doesn't need fluffers, right? We don't need fluffers. Everybody thinks we need fluffers. We don't need fluffers. Okay? We're good and hard right now, right? You don't need to warm up the audience for the coming of a character. Just bring in the character and knock it out of the park. Bring it in and knock it out of the park. You know, Jake Clark in the live chat is saying, but Vader was an original character. Even more so, right? Even more so. Vader, nobody knew anything about, nobody heard anything about it, never heard the name before. And if you don't need to warm them up for that, then why would you need to warm them up for an actor they already well know with Robert Downey Jr. and a character that all the comic book geeks know? There's already plenty of pre-existing stuff with Robert Downey Jr., with the character of Doom, all that kind of stuff, that you don't need to warm up the audience. I would say, if anything, if you did need to warm up the audience, you would need to warm them up with an original character, because there's no understanding. There's no background. There's nothing to get you excited. Dude, after Comic-Con, when they brought out Robert Downey Jr., the freaking internet exploded. So I don't think you need to do anything to warm up the audience before Doomsday. I really don't. I think they're good. Now, that's not to say that they shouldn't, or that it would be a bad idea. But without knowing what the story of Doomsday is, I think they're good. I think they're perfectly good. I really don't think, if they were to call me, I would say, you know what? Just bring him in Doomsday. Knock it out of the park right there. And I think we'll be good. All right. Anyway, thanks for the question, Tommy. Appreciate that, man. All right. Next up, Mr. Hank Dunn writes, the most exciting part for me about the new DCU is having a more fantastical Batman. I want things like a Man-Bat, Clayface, and Mr. Freeze. I'm going to say that I kind of personally like the non-fantastical Batman. The Batman that we get in Matt Reeves' universe, the Batman that we got in Christopher Nolan's universe. I kind of prefer that more than the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Freeze kind of Batman. But one of the great things about the fact that you have the DCU and that you have this world of Penguin and Batman is that you can have different kinds of Batman. And so even though I prefer my Batman stuff more grounded and gritty and real, I think there's room for a more fantastical Batman. As long as Batman himself doesn't get fantastical, right? I don't want Batman to suddenly have superpowers. But I think there's room for that. And it's going to be really exciting. And hopefully they can avoid the trappings of some of the old Batman stuff and do it really well. So it's a really great opportunity for them, Hank. Even though I prefer mine more grounded, I think it's great that we're going to have a different kind of Batman here dealing with different types of challenges. So I think that's going to be really cool. All right. Next up, we've got David Cushmore, who writes, will there be Batman versus Alien or Superman versus Alien? They both have comic books. It would be awesome if they did. No. Like, never say never, because anything could happen 10 years from now. But no. That's such a gimmick. It's great to do it for a comic book. I don't think you make a movie out of it. Yeah. There's the whole... didn't Marvel do it too, where aliens... Like, the Marvel universe had to fight aliens, and like an alien impregnated Hulk or something like that. I think Marvel did something like that in the comics. But no, I don't see them, and I don't think they should do a movie out of it, because there's really nowhere to go with it. All right. That's just me, though, David. Next up, Mr. I writes, the Darkhold was answered after the end of the season. Now that we know that the road was conjured by Billy, before Agatha saw that in the crib, Jen told Billy the rumor of Agatha trading Nicholas for it. You know what? That's a really good observation. For if you're joining us a little bit late, earlier in the show I mentioned, like, I'm not quite sure why Agatha had that vision of the Darkhold in the crib. I think you're absolutely right, Mr. I think, well, now that we know that the entire road was manifested by Billy, the same way that his mother, Wanda, manifested the reality that Westview lived in, and she had heard the rumor, and he heard the rumor about the Darkhold, that actually makes perfect sense. You answered my question. That's the beauty of having the audience, is that you guys figure things out that I don't. That's actually perfect. I think you're absolutely 100% right about that. Thank you for that, man. That's great. All right. A performing artist writes, I'm excited for a possible werewolf movie renaissance with Frank Grillo Werewolves B, a B-movie fun, and Christopher Abbott's Wolfman coming out soon. I'll tell you what, man, they showed us a presentation for that Wolfman movie coming at CinemaCon back in April. And I was like, I mean, I was just talking about, I like my Batman kind of grounded. This feels like a really gritty, grounded, how do you do a grounded werewolf movie? I don't know. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but it feels like a really gritty, low budget, grounded kind of werewolf movie. And it looks awesome. And I can't wait to see it. Now, as far as the other projects and going B-movie route, that could really work too, but this is the one that I'm really excited about. So hopefully it'll turn out to be good. All right. Next up. Oh, by the way, Jonathan mentions true. Yeah, American Werewolf in London for a werewolf movie is really grounded. And that's one of the reasons why it's like my all-time favorite horror movie. American Werewolf in London is my all-time favorite horror movie. And that's probably one of the reasons why. All right. Last question of the day comes to us from Andrew Brown, who writes, do you think franchises like Star Wars should take a page from Gundam and make various AUs? I don't know what you mean by AU. If anybody in the live chat knows what he means by AUs, alternate universes, guys, please guys, never write in acronyms. Oh, animated universe, alternate universe. Okay. Yeah. You guys are thinking the same thing. Alternate universes. No, Star Wars shouldn't do that. I think here's the thing. The Star Wars is George Lucas created a universe that is so big and so vast and so huge that you don't need alternate universes to tell interesting, engaging stories. You can literally say this one takes place on planet Unkampa, which is like 5,000 millennial speed light years that way. It's 45 parsecs. that way. Like, and you can tell these stories and you don't need them to be in alternate universes. The vastness of the Star Wars universe is an incredible playground, which is part of the reason why often over the last like 10 years, I've been so frustrated with a lot of Star Wars because they keep shrinking Star Wars. Everything Star Wars makes has to be connected to other things we've already seen and characters we already know. When what they should be doing is expanding the Star Wars universe. There's so much you can do. You can make a show like Skeleton Crew. That's one of the reasons I'm so stoked for Skeleton Crew. That trailer that came out this morning is awesome. I loved it. And I need something good to come out of Star Wars right now because the last bunch of things we've gotten have been crap. Andor was awesome. I mean, Andor is like the best thing since Return of the Jedi. But like Ahsoka, blah. Obi-Wan, blah. Acolyte, blah. I mean, I think we got John Watts behind it. I think this is going to be great. But the best thing about Skeleton Crew is that it actually looks like it's expanding the universe. Let's see characters and let's see places and let's go on adventures that we haven't had in the Star Wars universe before. That the answer is not making alternate universes. I don't think that's the answer because you don't even need it. Just start taking advantage of the fact that the Star Wars universe is so vast. All right, guys, that'll do it for all the questions you guys sent to me. You know what? I'm going to take a couple extra minutes. I'm going to take a couple extra minutes now, and I'm going to take some questions from you guys in the live chat. Now, if you have a question for me, and I'm not guaranteeing I'm going to answer all of them, I can't, but do me a favor, put in capital letters question, colon, and then write your question. That way I know you're asking me a question and not just making a comment or something like that. So if you have a question for me, go ahead and put in. So we got one here already says, from Josh, which do you prefer, Ready or Not or Abigail? Two great little under the radar fun horror movies. I really adored both of them. I think I will give the slight edge to Abigail. I love them both. I think both of these movies were great and fun and enjoyable, but I'll give the edge to Abigail. Let's see. Next, we got Q writes, do you think Marvel should have had What If be fan-submitted ideas? No, absolutely not. 100% no. Nope. I don't think fans, and remember, I'm a fan. I don't think fan-submitted stuff is ever a good idea. So no, I really don't think they should have done that, and I'm glad that they didn't. Let's see. Next up, Mr. I writes, odds my Browns can beat at the Chargers this weekend. You know what? Now that Deshaun Watson's not at quarterback, and yeah, Jameis Winston, who looked great last week, I think you guys got a shot at beating. I think you have a shot. I'd say it's a coin toss, to be honest with you. Coin toss that you guys can beat the Chargers. Let's see. Jake Clark says over or under Agatha and Billy are in Vision Quest. Well, here's Jake. If you're going to say over or under what? You got to give me a number. Over or under what? Over or under 90%? Over and under 10%? I can't say over or under if you don't give me a number. I will say this though. I don't think they're going to be in it. I think Vision Quest is going to be a vision show. And I don't think Agatha or Billy will be in it. So yeah, there's that. Let's see. DeAndre writes, what's your most and least anticipated projects in James Gunn's DCU? Well, I mean, right. Superman is right in front of me, right? So I think that's the one I'm most excited about right now. Least excited about is the next thing coming out. I'm least excited about Creature Commandos. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be bad, but I'm just being honest that I'm least excited about it. I could end up loving it, and I hope that I do, but I'm really not all that excited about it. But hopefully it'll be good. Let's see here. I'll take like two more. Let's see. Michael Burgett writes, question, which proposed Tom Cruise sequel would you want to see more? Days of Thunder 2 or Top Gun 3? Top Gun 3. Listen, I didn't mind Days of Thunder. I'll go further than that. I like Days of Thunder. But I'm okay with there not being more Days of Thunder. even though Top Gun 2 was pretty much definitive, like literally at the end of Top Gun 2, he literally flies off into the sunset. Like literally flew off into the sunset. It was a perfect ending for it. But I like the Maverick character more. I think there's more things you could do. And I clearly think it has the potential to be more successful. I think it has potential to be more successful. All right. Let's see. David writes, question, Wrath of Khan or Empire? Oh, please. Listen, I love Wrath of Khan. I love Wrath of Khan. But it's laughable to compare it to Empire Strikes Back. It's all subjective. You may have a different opinion. That's fine. But he's asking me, so I'm giving my answer. It is laughable to compare it to Empire Strikes Back. Like Empire Strikes Back times 100. It's, yeah, clearly Empire Strikes Back. Clearly. And I say this is somebody who loves Wrath of Khan. I think Wrath of Khan is great. Let's see. One last one. I'm trying to find one good last one. I like this one. Question, will you be attending the Game Awards this year? Last year, I was very, very lucky that I was granted 3 VIP tickets to sit up in the industry section in the what do you call it? Who are the 2 guys from the Muppets? Waldorf, Statler and Waldorf. Is that who it was? Anyway, I got very, very lucky that I got granted 3 tickets to sit in the big VIP area of the Game Awards last year. And it was super fun. Had a very good time. I will see if I can get those tickets again. I'm not sure I'll be able to get them this year, but I will see if I can, because I had a really good time at the Game Awards last year. And yeah, hopefully I'll get to do it again. And guys, that'll do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here and making this little show part of your day. Hey, big special thank you to all of you guys who sent in the questions. Number 1, because you gave us fun things to talk about tonight. But number 2, you supported this channel as you did it. And everybody involved with our channel, thanks you guys so much for your support. Had a good time with this. Hopefully, maybe I'll have a chance to do another one on Sunday. I don't know. We'll see. I got a lot of football to watch on Sunday. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for being here. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. We'll see you again soon. My name's John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.